Hello guys, this is Antoine Carlisle, the Chief Consultant of K9 Care Consultants, also known as the SixFigureDogman. We're so glad to have you guys today. We're super excited about what we're going to talk about today. This is Season 2, Episode 11. Yes, we're back, you guys, with the second season of Dog Talk. Today we're going to talk about something that is very vital and very important that we found is a huge problem in the modern day pet home. It's an awesome subject, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's episode is entitled Mistreatment. Mistreatment. I think that there's a huge misunderstanding of what that word means. I guess on one side of it, we do know what it means, but I don't think we know what all it entails. I don't think we know what all is included in mistreating something or someone. And so today we're going to discuss that in detail. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to speak on it in a very precise manner. And we're going to cover all aspects of that word mistreatment. So today, I did some research and I looked up the word mistreat. To mistreat something or someone, it says to treat a person or animal badly, cruelly, or unfairly. And so I know immediately most people think that, of course I'm not mistreating my dog. There's no way I'm not, treating my dog, in the best way possible. And see, we feel like the last thing we're doing is mistreating our dog. When in fact, if you really think about it, a lot of times we are mistreating. I had a client today that came in and they began to tell me about how many treats they give their dog. They were saying that they give the dog, treats 4 or 5 times a day. And I began to think, and I'm like, what are we treating? The truth of the matter is the person was, here to evaluate their dog because the dog had been misbehaving, consistently and in extreme levels. They were misbehaving. And so at the same time, while they're telling me how badly their dog is, performing and behaving in the home, they're also telling me how much they're giving the dogs treats, how much playtime they have with the dog, how much cuddle time they have with the dog. And I'm sitting here trying to put, the 2 and 2 together. And I'm like, why are we doing so much treating when the dog is doing so much misbehaving, right? And so immediately I began to think of the word mistreatment, right? Mistreatment. What are we treating, right? And so, like all of my clients, I have them to explain to me, how their dog acts at home. Describe this dog to me. Take me from the day that you got this dog to now, right? Paint a picture for me, because I don't live with you, so I want you to explain to me what all you've experienced, what all you haven't experienced, what all you expected that you didn't get, and so on and so forth, so that I can bring myself up to speed to see how this dog got in the condition. Of course, like all of them, all of my clients, when they get here, I begin to read the dog. I begin to communicate with the dog from the time they get out of the car until the time we enter the facility. And so, this particular client, the dog got out of the car. Well, first of all, when they first got there, the dog's barking and just, really cutting up in the car. And as they got the dog out of the car, the dog was dragging them and pulling them and all these different things. And so we make it into the building, and, the lady began to explain to me, all these great things that she does for the dog, And I'm thinking, so what is this dog doing while you're doing these great things? And so if the dog is acting up, if the dog is, being unruly and jumping up on you and scratching you and knocking over the grandkids and doing all these things, at what point did you find time or find that it was appropriate to give a treat, right? And I'm assuming that when you gave that treat, that dog was either doing something bad or thinking about doing something bad. So what do we communicate to the dog at that time? That what they're doing or thinking is what you want. Right? I guess the most important thing that I teach is that you praise what you want, correct what you don't want. Praise what you want, correct what you don't want. Well, if this dog is giving you undesirable behavior and you're treating it, right, it sounds like there is mistreatment going on. You got me? So we're treating the things that we don't like. Well, when you praise a dog for their actions, you're going to get more of it because they want to earn that treat. And so a lot of times we're working backwards. We're not enforcing what we want, but in fact, we're enforcing what we don't want. We're embracing the misbehavior and we're embracing the undesirable behavior. And so I began to think about it and I said, that's what we're going to do our next episode about. That's what episode 11 is going to be about. The mistreatment of a dog. So the first thing I want to talk about is the misdiagnosis, right? The misdiagnosis. And so a lot of times clients, they say, well, this dog is so bad. He's just being so resistant and he's doing all these things. And I don't know why he's like that. And often they blame the breeder. They blame everybody they can possibly blame it on. They say that the dog is, being a puppy. This is the puppy stage and this, that, and the other. And there's no such thing. There's no such thing as a puppy stage or any of that stuff. There's desirable behavior, there's undesirable behavior. And for those behaviors, there's praise or there's correction. Just that simple. So when that dog is doing things that you don't like, you don't treat it. You don't treat it. You don't praise it. You don't embrace it. The dog has no idea that what they're doing is wrong. In fact, when dealing with a dog, everything that they do in their mind is the right thing to do. They don't know what's wrong until you tell them it's wrong. So if we spend most of our time loving and petting and praising and trying to build friendship, then the dog is cheated of the opportunity to know the governmental structure in the home. And so what we want to do is we want to create a governmental structure, right? That's who we are and what we believe in. Then based on that governmental structure, you create governmental policy. Once we create governmental policy, which is the rules and the laws based on who we are and what we believe in, then at that point, we communicate with our dog what we want and what we don't want. And the last thing we want to do is treat the wrong thing. And that's what I found that is going on. And so when you have not communicated to the dog what you want and don't want, and the dog is doing what they feel is right, and then you correct the dog, in fact, you're mistreating that dog. Because it's not fair to anyone that you not be told what's wrong, but you get a violation for it. So we're mistreating. We're mistreating. And so mistreatment isn't always physical abuse or emotional abuse or, verbal abuse. A lot of times it's depriving the animal of knowing what's right in the first place. So we are indeed mistreating. And so first we misdiagnose. We think that the dog is intentionally doing something wrong or doing something against what we allow in our home. That's the misdiagnosis. Now, where did the misdiagnosis come from? Come from misunderstanding. Where did the misunderstanding come from? It comes from us not really knowing dogs. You'd be surprised how many clients I get that say that they've had dogs all their lives. They don't understand what's so different about this dog. And, I found that a lot of times, we've owned dogs, but we don't really know dogs. We don't really understand the psyche of a dog. We don't really understand why they do what they do, why they won't do what you want them to do. It's just as simple as you communicated to that dog that it was okay to do what they're doing. We teach our clients all the time that dogs or children don't do anything they don't feel at liberty to do. That's a fact. That's a fact. No dog or child or person, for that matter, adult, child, whatever, none of them do anything they don't feel at liberty to do. That's a fact. That's self-preservation. That's a law of nature. Self-preservation. No one's going to do anything they don't feel the liberty to do or feel that they're going to get away with. So somehow we've communicated to that dog that they can do it. That they can do it. And sometimes it's difficult to explain that to people, but anything that dog is doing in your home, you subconsciously communicated to that dog that they can do it. And the sad part about it is that dog gets reprimanded for it. He gets in trouble for it. He gets corrected for it, right? Even to attacks, things like that. That dog gets put to sleep, when the truth of the matter is he did it because somehow, somewhere, someone communicated to him that was okay. And in my mind, that's what I see as mistreatment. I see the unfair, the unfair raising, of a dog, to me, is mistreatment. You know, I feel it's mistreatment for a dog to be corrected and reprimanded for something that, and so as a result of a misdiagnosis from the beginning, of course, being a result of misunderstanding, us not really understanding dogs, we get a dog that is misbehaving consistently, fluently, constantly, because in their mind, they're doing what pleases Alpha, you know, and the only way they even come to that conclusion is because Alpha has praised the wrong thing. Because one thing is for sure, when you correct the undesirable behavior timely and effectively, it goes away. So if that misbehavior has not gone away, if it is continuing and being perpetuated, it's because Alpha is not communicating properly. And so we find that we misdiagnose. We find that we misdiagnose because of misunderstanding. And then we get a dog that is consistently misbehaving. And so, like I said, on the tail end of that, nobody suffers but the dog. So in my opinion, that's mistreatment. And so what we have to do as alphas, as dog owners, we got to first love them enough to understand them. We have to love them enough to hear their views, find out what it is that's going on with them, why they're doing what they're doing, right? Love them enough to pay them enough attention, do enough research, find out really what's going on with our dog, not base our actions off of, you know, what we knew growing up, or not even what society says, because a lot of times what we find on Google and places like that is incorrect as well. You know, that's why it didn't work, right? And so to treat that dog properly is to love that dog. To love that dog is to know that dog. To know that dog is to research, you know, actually pay attention to your dog, find out, you know, what did I do that might have caused this? Because at the end of the day, you're driving and they're riding. You know, whatever they're doing, you know, one of the nuggets in our literature says your dog is a direct reflection of you. You know, whatever they are, whatever they're doing, you did it. In fact, they are not raising themselves, you're raising them. So whatever it is that they're doing, we have to look back at ourselves. We have to reflect on ourselves. Because one thing is for sure, as a homeowner and as an alpha myself, I understand that nothing is going on in my home that I'm not letting happen. If it's going on, I'm letting it happen. And it's my job to make sure that my home stays in order. It's my job to make sure that nothing takes place in my home that I don't want to be taking place. Because guess what? Not only do that animal suffer, but the other animals suffer, the children suffer, and anybody, and the guests and anybody else that come there suffers from what I'm allowing to happen. You know, and because of that, that animal is going to get mistreated. Your guests are going to be mistreated. You're going to get mistreated. You know, that lady that I talked to today, you know, the dog was jumping all on her, scratching her up. She had scars and puncture wounds and just all kinds of things all over her. And, you know, I asked her, I said, do you like when that dog jumps up on you? She was like, oh no, we despise it. You know, every time we have guests over, every time somebody comes over, the dog's jumping on everybody, this, that, and the other. And I'm looking because I just saw the dog jump on her 2 or 3 times while she was sitting in the chair, and she rubbed the dog, right? She was telling the dog, you know, it's okay, you know, rub it. And so I'm saying, you know, the reason why this dog is doing these things is because you communicated to that dog that you like it. And so it just doesn't make any sense to the dog why something is okay one day and then it's not okay the other day. She doesn't understand why it's okay to jump on you, but not okay to jump on the guests. And I think a lot of times we have things way too complex. You know, we should just simplify it. Black and white, no gray area. Either jumping's right or jumping's wrong. And the sad part about it, and sometimes it breaks my heart, to see a dog talked about so badly, you know, when in fact the dog is giving you his all, his or her all. They're doing everything in their power to please you, you know, and for the dog to get talked about so bad and brought to a trainer, you know, saying, hey, this dog's just horrible, dog's doing this, dog's doing that, we're actually considering getting rid of him. And I'm thinking, wow, it must really suck to be that dog. Like, the mistreatment is unreal, you know, because the dog is really giving their all. And so, You know, that's something that we wanted to talk about today. Actually finding out what really is mistreatment. Are we really treating our dog, you know, fairly? Are we being righteous leadership? Are we doing right by that dog? And what I found with a lot of my clients that they're not. They're not. You know, when the dog comes to me, I begin to handle the dog. You know, when the dog does this undesirable behavior, I give a correction, right? Immediately the dog's like, oh, you don't like that. Cool. Dog never does it again. So it makes me wonder what's going on in that home. What's really going on in that home? When that dog comes here, he's panting, he's stressed, he's showing anxiety, showing a lot of pressure. And so I can just imagine what life is like in the home, actually living with unrighteous leadership. And so as soon as we can educate people on what, you know, fair treatment is and what right raising and right guidance is, the sooner we can fix the problem with the dog, the sooner we can get the pressure off the dog, the sooner everybody can be happy.
Somebody's gonna get some help today.